Hi everyone, Autumn here. Today I wanted to talk about the enormous shock and disbelief that you will have when you're narcissistic or sociopathic, psychopathic, basically your cluster B personality disordered partner or spouse, when they finally break up with you or leave the relationship, when the mask slips, or when you leave them and they've had enough and they do the whole 1-2 reverse punch on you. I am talking about this today because I have been in and out of no contact and then limited contact because we can't have, it's too difficult for myself and my ex-husband to have no contact because of legal stuff, and it just totally amazes me the way in which these cluster B personality disordered people change. It's almost as though they're a completely different person than the person that you dated or that you were married to. And you could be with them. I've spoken to and heard from people that have been married for years and years, 15 years. And once that mask truly comes off, it's as though it's a completely different person. Like, I know that we all can change. We change through time, and we change depending on the circumstances, especially how we feel about somebody. But it's interesting to note that even when the victim of the narcissist or psychopath uncovers this twisted person that suddenly appears, and the partner that they knew is gone, that we still don't change that much, right? If anyone's gonna do a 180 and completely change depending on circumstance, situation, you would assume it would be us, because the circumstance changes so drastically, and we're thrown into such heartbreak and hurt and anger and just, this is why so many of us will have PTSD or PTSD symptoms after a relationship with a cluster B personality disordered person. And I want people to know, if you're going through this, if you just had the breakup, especially if you're just going through this, I want you to know that nearly everybody that was married to or in a relationship with somebody with these disorders goes through enormous, unspeakable confusion, hurt, anger, pain. It's as though the entire world as we know it has just exploded in our face. We build a sense of understanding and a sense of safety in the world based upon the truths that we see around us. And some of those truths are the people that are closest to us, especially our partner or spouse, who they are, how we are reflected back from them. So much of the importance, psychologically speaking and emotionally speaking, in our closest relationships with people has to do with us. It has to do with us. It has to do with how we see ourselves, because we base it on the way in which we are reflected back to us in that person's eyes, behaviors, emotions, and so on. And so, in my case, and in a lot of cases, your partner or your spouse will be, they may have moments where the mask slips, but by far and large, throughout the period of the relationship until the devalue discard starts, your partner will be a seemingly loving person. And even when that mask slips, they come back with so much, acting and so much placating, and they love you, and you see them completely differently than who they really are. And then suddenly we're faced with this person, this whole other person. Say, who is this person? Who is this person? My ex-husband, I don't even know who he is. Once in a while, the person he used to play comes back. And because still, even months later, I still am in such, I want to be in such denial because the truth is so painful. It is devastating to be so in love with and see a person as such a good, loving, kind person fundamentally and see the truth of them. That they're almost evil. They're cruel, mean, and they will lie and cheat and steal and do all these horrible things you never expected from that person. And also that they aren't there for you, and none of the commitments they made to you were really real. They all were conditionally based on what you were providing for them. And to see this real person come out, for me, months into the breakup, or months after the breakup happened, and I realized that my ex was a narcissist. Not only because he fits every narcissistic trait, but because the couples therapist, I talk about this in another video, the couples therapist at the end of a relationship diagnosed him and had spoken with his individual therapist and told me that he was the most personality disordered person. He or his partner, who was my ex's individual therapist, at least during that period, that they had ever worked with. He had the most attachment issues, and basically he told me in not so many words that I had to leave. He had traits of antisocial personality disorder, and he was afraid that he would be maniacal, potentially dangerous. So I had already been checking out because during this devalue stage, I wasn't going to put up with that. I didn't. And then it was just discard. And then this whole other person that kind of represented the rage guy I would see that would throw me for a loop. And when the mask would slip. But see, I realize now what I did, what maybe you did, was you justified it away, you excused it away, and you probably went into denial. When your partner's mask would slip and you would see this whole other person, this horrible person, you probably pretended like it didn't happen. I did. I only focused on the man that he presented himself to be and who I loved, which was a kind, sweet, caring, smart, emotionally intelligent, enlightened man who was loyal, committed, and even though he had flaws, even though he had issues, quote unquote, about his childhood abuse and other things that I've since been told may not have been true, I still saw him fundamentally as a really good person. And I always knew that at the core, he loved me with all his heart. And even if things were messed up, he would always love me. He would always be there for me. And guess what? I could not be further from the truth. So of course I have that to deal with in my own mind, and I talk about that with the trust videos and some other aspects of it, dealing with our own perception. But when you look at this person who becomes someone totally different, it really screws us up. It's meant to. It's not natural. It is not natural to have somebody in your life who you get to know well, who you love, who you have trust in and faith in and a deep connection bond with and attachment to, and for that person to completely change. That's not natural. It's going to cause significant emotional and psychological trauma. So I just want to say that if you feel that, that's normal. And the most important thing that you do in terms of letting go of that really, really deep, almost unbearable anger and hurt and heartbreak is that you understand that they duped you, and that person you see now is the real person. Because it's really easy to go into a denial mode where you start justifying away. When this first happened, I was trying to convince myself he had bipolar. He was just having an episode. Because I could not reconcile. It's called cognitive dissonance. I'm going to do a video on that because I think this is so important. We get this a lot in life. When we have two contradictory, we have what we believe to be the truth, and we have another truth presented that's contradictory to that belief we have. Even if we have facts, even if we know for sure that that is the new truth, a lot of times our brain can't reconcile the two, and we can't let go of the initial false belief that we had. It's too painful and it's too hard, and so we will literally ignore facts and go into denial. So I think it's important that you understand this is what narcissists do. It's what psychopaths do. It's what all the cluster B personality disorder people do. Borderlines, histrionics, antisocials, sociopaths. They wear masks. They become different people in order to meet their agenda, to get their narcissistic supply, to get money, in my husband's case, a green card, get whatever it is they want out of you. And they wear whatever mask they have to wear that's going to get them, that's going to get you to trust them and love them. And when they no longer care anymore, or they've gotten what they need out of you, or they moved on, the person you see, that's the real person. You know that they say that in order to see the truth of somebody, it's when things are bad, when things are hard, rough. That's when you see the real person. So that's what you're seeing now. Seeing the real person. And if you're like me, I've never been in a relationship with a narcissist or sociopath. I unfortunately had a couple people in my life that were women mostly, but never in a relationship. So this is like nothing I've ever seen. I've had other hard breakups. This is not a normal breakup, because people don't change the fundamental person they were. And someone doesn't go from being in love with you one day and 3 days later saying they never loved you and meaning it. That's not how humans work. So your ex-spouse or partner is not really human. Like, in that way, emotionally, they're not. Anyway, just wanted to say that because I know how hard it is, and I'm going through it again. Even months later, I go into states of almost denial where I almost get fooled. I start having contact with him again, and he puts on this mask again because he needs something from me, and I start believing that he's really that person again. It's almost insane that I do that because I want to believe it, but no more. It's causing me too much pain, and it will cause you too much pain as well if you don't just accept the fact. The person you fell in love with never existed. The person you see when they're enraged, when they leave you, when you leave them, when they devalue you and discard you, that's the real person. All right. Much love, everyone. Namaste.